Good morning. Happy Saturday. This is Kelly from Kelly's Coffee and Crime Chat. This will be up the weekend of the 20th. Or wait a minute, it'll be Friday, wouldn't it? Yeah, the 20th. I got it right. I didn't think I had it right there for a minute. This will drop on the 20th, but it's going to go up a week early. Well, not quite a week. Hopefully about a week early on Patreon and Spotify Premium for early access. I went to 2 weeks on my regular on this podcast because um, I I've just been way too busy, and I have not been able to do much recording. But now I'm hoping I can do more after Christmas. But as for right now, I went to 2 weeks. There may be some times where I might do a week for the next episode. But I wanted to do this one. This one takes place on Christmas Eve, and I knew that this was around the Christmas time. And since I go every 2 weeks, there probably won't be another one until closer to, well, it'll be January. Wow. So it'll be closer to January or in January. Like I said, unless I got a lot of time on my hands and I can do some more episodes for you. I am drinking Java Mama Ugly Sweater, and this is really good. Oh man, it's got like the buttery, it's like it says on the label, uh, festivities explosion in your mouth. Mm. Mm-mm-mm. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got nice buttery, toasty flavor, nutty flavor, like Uncle Larry. That's what it says on the label, and a little bit of the butterbeer flavor from our earlier. We had a butterbeer coffee, and it was really good. There's no alcohol in the coffee. It just has that taste, and it doesn't taste like beer. It's a different. I don't know how to explain it. If anybody knows what butterbeer is in coffee, um, let me know because I really don't know how to explain it. But it's a very whatever it is, it's very good. Mm. So that is what I'm drinking is the Ugly Sweater coffee. Mm. Perfect gift, by the way. Okay, here we go. This one takes place in Irving, Texas. So I went back to Texas for this one. That's not really Midwest, it's more South, but it's the north part of Texas. So I try to kind of span out a little bit more than just the Midwest, but I keep most of my episodes right here in the middle of the United States. So this is the story of Aubrey Hawkins, and I named it Aubrey Hawkins because I would rather name it the victim than the murderers. You know what I mean? So, Irving, Texas, there was a sporting goods store called Oshman's, and I have not heard of this. If anyone's heard of this store, let me know. I think it's a chain. I'm not mistaken, but I think it is. Christmas Eve, employees were getting ready to close up. They only had like 15 minutes left. The store was closing at 6 on Christmas Eve. It was about 5:45. There was an employee called, his name was Michael Simpson, and his wife was pregnant. She came to pick him up. Her name was Misty. So she was waiting outside in the parking lot to pick him up. And like I said, right about 5:45, before they closed, two security officers came into the store. They started to inform the workers that a series of robberies at other Oshmans or other stores, and it could be other stores. Like I said, I thought they said other Oshmans, but I wasn't sure if this was a chain. But there were other robberies taking place, and they had actual photos of the suspects for them to look at. And they had the whole security, the shirt, everything. But shortly after, one of the security guards, when they started at the photos, one of the security guards announced this was a robbery. And he took out a revolver and pointed it at the manager, and his name was Wes. The guy then said that other people, well, there were other people in the store. So there were other shoppers in the store. It wasn't just the workers. Well, there were about 4 other shoppers that came up and all pulled out guns. So there were more people in on this than just the security type guys. They made them go to the back room. There was a break room in the store. Of course, they had to ask if there was a back room. Oh my gosh! And they took him to the break room, tied him up. Now, meanwhile, Michael's wife Misty, waiting out in the parking lot, is seeing this, but she said it didn't seem like they were doing. I forgot to name off my sources on this, by the way. Let me name those off real quick. SpectrumLocalNews.com, Christmas Eve Killing, Homicide for the Holidays on Oxygen, and Wikipedia.org. So I wanted to get, so sorry. I knew I was forgetting something at the beginning of this. So she's seeing all this in the parking lot, but she just saw them like walking single file to the back of the store, like something was wrong. It's like, what are they doing, you know? And she ended up calling a friend of hers and said, I think something's going on here. It looks like they're getting robbed. And she goes, well, let me come by and see. Which my first thought was, why don't you guys call the police if you think something's wrong? But then maybe they didn't. I don't think she really. Well, she told the friend she thought it was a robbery. But again, I would have just called the police. But anyway, the friend showed up, and then that's when they called 911. And Wes, the manager, he was taken to the register while the rest of the people were all in the break room tied up. They wanted all the money, of course, and they wanted the surveillance tape so that they would not be seen on the tape. So they took the tape out. Now, this was around the time when, I thought I wrote the year down here, but around the time when they used tapes. And I know it's a lot different now. I will get to the year. I'm sure I put the year in this. I thought it was in 2000, maybe. I could be wrong. Yep, this was around 2000, 2001. This happened. So Christmas of 2000. So they wanted them. They got the surveillance tape. Then they asked Wes for his car keys. So he gave him his car keys. He had a white car outside and gave him the car keys. So then the guy wanted him to open the gun vault. So they took 42 weapons and all kinds of ammo for the weapons. When around this time was when the officer came. Now, when Misty called 911 or her friend, whichever one did, they didn't specify that this was they wasn't sure what it was. They thought it was a robbery, but the officer was out at Olive Garden dining with his family on Christmas Eve, and he got called in. So husband and father, Aubrey Hawkins, he was an officer for 5 years, and he was 29 years old. He got called to this, not realizing it was as big as it was. So the people in the break room all started hearing gunshots. And Wes, the manager, said he thought it sounded like about 30 gunshots. Well, then there was nothing. So then he went out and got to the phone, called 911. I don't know exactly what kind of phone it was. Like I said, this was in the early days. There were no smartphones. It wasn't like that. Not everybody had a cell phone back then. And the cops showed up. When he called 911, more cops showed up, and they found Officer Hawkins had been shot 11 times. He was laying out on the pavement, and he had been run over. So this officer called for backup. They all hurried there. You know, officer down. They got him in the ambulance. They tried to save him, but an hour later he passed. He had just been with his family. An hour later, he had just been with his family. An hour before he had just been with his family. I gotta really watch my handwriting here. So this was just an hour after he left Olive Garden dining with his family on Christmas Eve, and he had died. That is so sad to me. I just cannot imagine, you're with your family on Christmas Eve. You just never know when it's the last time you're going to see them. And so they tried to save him in the ambulance, but he was gone. It wasn't an hour later. That was a mistake. I said, sorry about that. But they tried to revive him, but he had been shot 11 times and he had been run over, and he didn't make it. The SWAT team showed up after this, and all the shooters were gone. They were all gone. There was no video surveillance because I was so hoping there was another tape. I kept thinking, is there going to be another tape or something but no, there was no video evidence. And they got $70,000 in cash. Police had no idea where to start looking. They went to the news. They offered a $100,000 reward to look, and then they also gave the description of Wes's vehicle because that's what they left in. It was a '96 Ford Explorer, a white one, and so they found it after a tip came in. The front seat was all bloody, so they thought one of them was injured. Now they found out there were 7 escapees down south, southern Texas, 11 days before this. They had broken out of prison, and they had broken out of Kennedy, Texas, and it was John B. Connolly Unit. They had robbed a Radio Shack in Houston also, and they had escaped on the 13th of December of 2000. So then the reward went up to $500,000 to find these guys. George Rivas, if I'm saying that right, was the leader. He was the ringleader of these prisoners and their escape. I didn't go into the escape on here, but boy, when they escaped, it was a big thing. There is a documentary on it, and I need to look it up. I forgot to write down the name of it. I think it's just The Escape of the Texas 7. Because that's what police started calling them. They gave the name the Texas 7. And I also talked about them in an episode I did on Patreon of the Dutchers, that they were suspected in the Dutchers murder, but it ended up not being them. But that's who they were. They were suspected of other things because they were on the run. I mean, they took people hostage in the prison when they escaped. It wasn't like they were scraping the walls and trying to get out like Escape from Dannemora. If you've seen that on Netflix, it wasn't like that. They actually took people hostage, other inmates hostage. They overpowered the guards. They stole a police van. I mean, it's just like, what? I gotta look up this documentary and see just how in the world this happened. It's just weird. Okay, so they interviewed that night. This is Christmas Eve still. They interviewed all of the employees at Oshman's because they wanted to they wanted to get on this like right away. Now, some of the employees did recognize the robbers' mugshots of the Texas 7. 10 miles away in Arlington, Texas, 3 of them checked into a motel. The desk clerk called police after suspecting them. Now, they rented a second room in the middle of the night, and that's kind of what got them suspicious. So she told police that these 3 were them. She looked at the mugshots. She said 2 of them were them. The third one was, she wasn't all that sure. Well, SWAT team came in. They actually found 3 guys walking out of the room, got them down on the floor. It wasn't them. Mistaken identity. They were 3 businessmen from El Paso. Well, see, they got that $50,000 reward up too, or $500,000 reward up. But my gosh, that would be horrible. You're on a business trip, and then here comes a SWAT team. Now, they thought the guys were injured because of the blood in the car. So, I don't know why I wrote that down. I think it's because I thought maybe that none of them were injured. These 3 guys. I don't know if that was that was one of the things that told them, okay, well, right away that they didn't think it was them. But they did But they found out in Arlington, Texas, that there was a store where security clothes, like security guard clothes, and were purchased by check, and some smoke grenades, because they're like, wait a minute, smoke grenades. And I thought they said they had those. The prisoners had those, but I'm not positive on that. And this was in South Fort Worth. The person who wrote the check was a parolee who was living with his girlfriend. They found him, went to the house, questioned them. Was not him. Was not one of the prisoners. They said they purchased that for a prank to play on a friend of theirs. That's why they purchased all that stuff. So this was not them. Now they're at a dead end again. It's like, what do we do? Hold on, I have got to get a drink of water. My mouth is just drying out here. It's like everything they did, it just ended up a dead end. So it's like, oh my gosh, they were getting more frustrated. So 4 weeks after Christmas, January 20th of 2001, America's Most Wanted aired the Texas 7. And they got a tip. Woodland Park, Colorado. There was an RV park there. There were these guys that showed up, and the lady who ran it called the tip in. There was a group of these guys that showed up. They had their hair dyed and said they were Christians. I don't know what else they said. That's just what they said. That seems to be a cover for a lot of people when it's like, oh, we're Christians, you know. We're a church group. Okay. Colorado Springs SWAT team planned on coming the next morning. Now, some of them, when they got there, some of them had left in a Cherokee to get gas. They actually found them at the gas station that they went to. They had miniguns and Officer Hawkins' gun, so they had his gun with them. Then they surrounded the RV and got the guys inside the RV, but one would not come out. He ended up shooting himself and died. Now, one of the guys did get shot, and that was from the blood in the car. So what happened was, one of the guys got shot. They ended up going to a Walgreens. It must have been very, very superficial, because they went to Walgreens, got all bandaged up, whatever they did, and he healed. So that's too bad. 2 were still on the run. Now, the 2 of them that were on the run, they ended up finding them in a hotel close to where the FBI were staying. I mean, it was right there. And this was in Colorado Springs. So they had a negotiator called in. The 2 guys wanted to talk to the media about the prison system in America. I don't know exactly what they said, how unfair it was, how it was. I don't know. And then they ended up surrendering. So I don't know what all was said on the news, or the, what the media put on there, what they all told them. All 6 were charged with first-degree murder. It sounded to me like they didn't know which one killed Officer Hawkins, but they were all guilty of it, which was awesome. I thought that was pretty good that they did that. And the ringleader, George Rivas, was given death. He was executed February 29th, 2012. Why can't we go back to this? Really? I mean, they know they did it. I mean, it wasn't like something, well, maybe they didn't do it. No, they knew they did this. Donald Newberry was another one. He was executed April 4th of 2015. Joseph Garcia, executed December 4th of 2018. And then there was another one, last name was Rodriguez or something. And really not important, but he was executed on August 14th of 2008. There's 2 more still on death row. Randy and Patrick are their names. Now, the Rodriguez guy that I didn't get first name of, his dad was convicted for giving him a getaway car during their escape. His dad gave him the getaway car to get out. And so he was convicted, but I don't know how long he may even be out by now. There is a memorial in Irving, Texas for Aubrey Hawkins. And I will post a photo of his plate that they've got for him in the memorial. Very, very sad. He was 29 years old, like I said, dining with his family on Christmas Eve. An hour later, he was gone. And please, please hug your loved ones. You don't know when the last time you're going to see them. You don't. You just don't. And it's so sad. But I am so glad that these guys, except for the last two, are now not with us anymore because they don't need to be breathing. These two still on death row. I have no idea what's going on with them. I didn't. All I found out was that they were still on death row. So we had one committed suicide, 4 executed, and then 2 are still on death row. So that's the story of Officer Aubrey Hawkins, father and husband. And you can also look up more about him, his memorial online. I didn't get much information about him, just that the world was a better place with him in it. And he touched a lot of lives. His coworkers loved him. He was such a nice person. For this to happen, it's just horrible. Oh my gosh. It just saddens me so much. I really think that this really doesn't have anything to do with this particular case here or what happened, but I wish places would close on Christmas Eve too. Even if it's just like early in the afternoon or close, it's just sad. I just think that it would be, I almost just want to stay home all the time. When I think about this stuff, I just stay home on Christmas Eve, stay home on Christmas, stay home the day after Christmas or whatever. I don't know. Cause it's a time for the holidays. It's a time to be kind. It's a time for giving, not something like this. Never's a good time for something like this, but it's just so sad when I hear things like this around the holidays, or anything like this. So I just wanted to thank everybody for your support and for your listening to the podcast. I just watched the new Dexter episode last night on Showtime Paramount Plus. I really like it. It is Original Sin, the new Dexter series. And I don't know if it's just one season. This might just be one season because it's just called Dexter Original Sin. Man, it's good. The actor that plays him talks like him, acts like him. I mean, they really got some good actors on this. I really like it. Christian Slater plays the dad. So I was really impressed with it. You can't binge watch it all. Next episode will be next week. So I really cannot wait to see the next one. And I went back to watch a little bit of the First Blood, or not first, I keep saying First Blood, New Blood, the one that was done just before this, because I forgot what actually happened to him. And they do show the end of it at the beginning of this one, but I still wanted to go back and kind of watch it a little bit. So, of course, I only watched like the first episode, and then I went back to the very first episode of Dexter with the ice truck guy, and then I think, gosh, what was the deal with that? Because it's been so long since I've seen that. So it's kind of like I'm watching a little bit of both of them right now. So, but it is very good. It's a good one. I watched a movie last night on Netflix called Carry On with Jason Bateman and Taron Egerton. That's how you say his name. Very good. Very edge of your seat. My gosh. It's called Carry On. It takes place on Christmas Eve in an airport, and it takes place all in one night. And it is pretty, like I said, exciting, edge of your seat action. It's pretty good. I was impressed. So I watched that last night. So there's another recommendation. So everybody have a wonderful Christmas and have a wonderful New Year. If you have any suggestions, please throw them my way. I have my email, Instagram, Facebook, all that will be in the show notes. And this is going to go up a week early for Patreon and Spotify Premium members. And I hope that you all have a wonderful Christmas and Happy New Year. And I will see you for the next episode. Again, any suggestions, please, please, please throw them my way because I need suggestions. And have a good one, everybody. I will see you next time.